Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a little bit of goblins. So once upon a time we used to be able to have turbo Muxus goblins, and that's sort of gone by the wayside. So we're back to good old fashioned goblins, which is like a mid-rangey deck that's got some mana denials, got some explosive stuff, got a lot of tutoring. It's a really fun deck with lots of different lines you can take, and we're going to try and give it a go today. So mana base is kind of important to look at here. We are a 4x Cavern of Souls deck, so we can try and make our creature uncounterable. We're also an Aether Vial deck, so we have a lot of ability to play our creatures without worrying about counter magic. We've got ourselves 4 wastelands and only 2 Rishadan Ports. In previous builds you would see 4, but the correct number appears to be 2 because I took this off of the 5.0 deck dump. We got 3 basic mountains, no swamps, we got Badlands, and we got a Raucous Theater. So that's the mana we're casting our spells with, and generally what we want to do is try and play a Goblin Lackey on turn 1, connect with it and put something really good in on turn 2. We also have a Skirk Prospector, which is the thing that we can use to accelerate us out into some of our other bits and pieces. So a lot of our deck is about digging into our deck for more goblins. So we have Goblin Ringleader, which refills our hand, gets us a bunch of goblins. We have Goblin Matron, which finds us a specific goblin we need for any situation. Then we have Warchiefs to make things cheaper. We have our removal spell, staple onto a goblin in Munitions Expert. This deals damage equal to the amount of goblins we have to a creature or planeswalker. So this is one of our sort of primary removal spells here. We have a Sting Scourger, that's when we can shoot up to bounce tokens like Marit Lage or whatever. We've got a couple of different lords in these Rundvelt Hordemasters. It means that whenever a goblin we have dies, we get to flip the top card of our library, and we can play that until end of turn if it's a goblin creature card. I'm sorry, until end of next turn. So we can use things like our Sling-Gang Lieutenant to sacrifice goblins to ping our opponent, and then get some more cards to find some more goblins, and just keep the train rolling. We've got ourselves War Marshal. This makes us 3 goblins for 1 card, which is pretty good value-wise. We've got Cratermaker to blow up some random bits and pieces. We've got Warren Weirding, which is a Kindred sorcery, so we can actually tutor for this using our Goblin Matron, because this just says Goblin, not Goblin creature card. We have a Piledriver, nice little pro-blue guy that we can send our opponents. We've got a piece of Graveyard Hate that we can tutor for now in the form of Boggart Trawler, which can also be a land, which is a really nice addition that's quite new to this deck. Of course, we have Muxus. You play Muxus, quite often you're winning the game because you're putting a bunch of stuff in play. And we have a Pashalik Mons. This is a similar but different version of Sling-Gang Lieutenant in some ways. Instead of draining our opponent out, we're going to be using this for removal a lot of the time, but we usually want it alongside like a sack outlet like the Prospector or whatever, and then we can ping stuff down. But we can also use this to just snipe our opponent out life-wise. And Broadside Bombardiers, tying the room together. Just a great card that is a premium board control asset as well as damage. We can be throwing things like Ringleaders for 6 damage and just completely clock our opponent out of nowhere. Big fan of this. There's a couple of Pyrokinesis in the main, which is kind of unusual to see it in the main, but we are in a relatively creature heavy format, so I can understand that. It means we're going to have a little bit of trouble against some of these blue-white X control decks where we've got a couple of dead cards and maybe a few more because our stuff might not be the most useful there. But yeah, interesting to see how this plays out. I haven't played goblins for a little while, and I know a lot of you lovely people out there enjoy little goblins. So let's have a quick chat about sideboard. A little bit more removal here. Got some other removal in Sudden Edict. We've got some blasts. We've got Mindbreak Trap for the combo decks, because we're not going to be amazing against combo decks here. So we've got some Mindbreak Traps. We've got Chalice. We've got Surge Extraction. Relic of Progenitors. Lots of stuff to hit different angles of combos. Trashmaster to blow up some artifacts. For artifact combo decks mainly. Earwig Squad, this is a weird one. So this has Prowl. So we only cast it for 3 if we've dealt damage with a creature that shares a type with this. So that's Goblin or Rogue. So all of our creatures are goblins. Easy peasy. And then we get to extract 3 cards from our opponent's deck and exile them. So this can be really good against things like Doomsday, which is obviously a matchup that without something like this might be very difficult. And we've got Blood Moon in there because we're a red deck. Blood Moon can jams people up. I'm curious about these numbers here. I'm not a Goblins expert by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm just going to assume that this list knows what they're doing. And that is the deck. So remember to like and subscribe. And if you would like to support me, I have a £1 a month tier on my YouTube memberships. If you just want to throw me a little bit of spare change every month, I would appreciate that. Obviously, you don't have to. My content is still going to be free and not paywall at any point in terms of my videos. All right. Let's make some goblins and jam the little creatures right into our opponent's face. We are on the play for the first round. What do we have here? Turn 1 Prospector. I don't really want to hang out this cavern if I can avoid it. We can use that on turn 2 for the Hordemaster because we don't want to get that wastelanded. If they do something to our Prospector, it's not the end of the world, right? So I think we're going to keep this, lead off on Mountain, play the Prospector, sandbag this second land so we can be guaranteed to make a 2-drop without having to worry about wasteland and things. Alright, Skirk Prospector. Are we in? Our opponent knows what we're about already because there's not many decks that are running the Skirk Prospector. So, there we are. Scalding Tarn from our opponent, giving it a little crack. What are they going to find? Basic Island and a Ponder. So we could be looking at anywhere between combo, control, and aggro. They did shuffle. Alright, let's attack with this Prospector. So we've pivoted our plan slightly. We're going to put this Lackey into play instead of the Hordemaster. This also means our opponent is unlikely to be able to wasteland us and deal with the Lackey in the same turn, because they only have blue mana here, which is very unlikely to do anything to our Lackey. So if they have a wasteland, they won't have access to a removal colour like red or black or white. Alright, so we might be looking at some sort of blue-back deck. They're very popular at the moment. Underground Sea. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? Alright, so they're going to ping off our Lackey. We will sacrifice this so that they do not get access to the 1-1 off of this. So we can shoot this down and attack a Ringleader. Is that better than playing the Hordemaster here? I don't think it is. Hordemaster gives us an additional point of power on our Prospector, so we can jam for 2 without fear. Another Bowmasters would obviously be pretty bad for us. You don't see that many Bowmasters at the moment. People are playing things like Frogs as their main 2-drop, and then they maybe supplement it with like an Emperor of Bones, sometimes Bowmasters. Baleful Strix is quite popular as well. Psychic Frog. Okay. So they've got enough cards in hand that we can't really kill this Psychic Frog. Can't draw a land. It's not the most useful. We could try something a little wild here, like attacking with our Skirk Prospector and seeing what our opponent wants to do about that. But if we get hit by a Daze, that's pretty bad news for us. We'd like to get this Vial down, but that makes it very difficult for us to play this Munitions Expert in a meaningful way. I think we just got to suck it up here and play this Vial. If we have to sacrifice one of our guys for some reason, we can then cast a Munitions Expert. It's unlikely to do much to a Psychic Frog, though. Alright, we're getting a Force of Will here. That's good news. We want less cards in our opponent's hand here. So, let's have a think. We deal 3 damage to this. It has effectively 5 power. So if we attack with the Skirk Prospector... Actually, that's not true. Has 5 power. Alright, I'm going to go for a line here. I don't think they're going to block here. But they might do. Okay. So now it's on our opponent to do some Psychic Frogging. So we're just going to dome this Frog for 4. And I'm going to pitch... It should probably be the card that... Like, this is the big reload. But this is the card that finds us whatever we need. I think we're going to pitch the Matron there and just try and keep the reload going. We've got mana to pay for days. They've already used a Force of Will this turn. I'm not expecting another Force of Will. If they do have another Force of Will, then we still get to kill the Frog using the Munitions Expert. Okay. I'm just taking it. Another Frog. So we can dome this for a little bit, but it won't be enough. This is now 4 toughness, effectively. What a frustrating card. Let's see what we can draw here and see if we can dig ourselves out. Well, they really want to counter this last time. So if we attack with this, if they put a counter on this, we just kill it straight up, right? In response. So let's attack with the Skirk Prospector and see if our opponent wants to play this game again. They do, apparently. Would you like to discard a card? A Dismember on our Hordemaster here. He's got 1 card in hand, so we're going to cast this Uncounterable Friend. Dome this. I'm going to discard a card, but it won't help. So this will give us 1 additional card, whichever way it dies. There's no point sacking the mana for this. Let's see what we find. A Wasteland. We don't get to cast that. But our opponent is down to not the most amount of resources there. They've got a Bowmasters and 2 cards. Now they can cast a whole bunch of stuff in their deck. The Dismember makes me think our opponent is on a fair blue-black strategy rather than Reanimator. Especially with the Orcish Bowmaster, because you just can't fit all of that stuff in the same deck, usually. A Goblin Matron. I'm going to play an Aether Vial here. I don't really know if I want to be sacking stuff for this. We could make the Matron here and play a land. But we'd basically be trading our entire board in to do that. I don't think we need to do that. We are in control of this game as it currently stands. We just need to leverage the cards in our hand, and we should be able to win from here. But our opponent could have something like a Murktide Regent, which swings things very dramatically, very quickly. Petty Theft on a Skirk Prospector. I'm going to sacrifice my Skirk Prospector so that they do not get the Brazen Borrower. This will go straight to the graveyard. Skirk Prospector did a lot of work. They stopped them getting a guy there off of the Bowmasters. We stopped them having the backside of the Borrower. Orcs versus Goblins. That's where we're at right now. Yes, we'll start doing some Aether Vial stuff. Can we draw a land? There are some lands in our deck. We can throw this Lackey in step if we want to. Alright, we're going to start attacking here. See if we can trade this Bowmaster out. We can indeed. This paves the way for our Lackey for next turn. I want this to be a surprise for our opponent, so I'm not going to just violate it in straight away. We can then Matron for Muxus if we think our Lackey is going to connect. If we find a land. In comes a Lackey. How do you like that, opponent? Not very much by the sounds of it. Is this another Bowmaster? A Shoulder's Edict. Alright, goodbye, Goblin Lackey. Not a surprise. Alright, let's add some counters to our Aether Vial. Petty Theft on the Aether Vial. Sure, it's annoying. A Wooded Foothills. Our opponent is hellbent over there. Let's crack this. We might as well get a Badlands in the situation we're in. Let's cast an uncounterable Matron. So I'm kind of interested in getting the Boggart Trawler just so we have a guaranteed land for next turn in this Ringleader. So I'm going to do that. Which is a new piece of tech that I haven't played in Goblins decks before. Felt pretty good. We should be able to race a Borrower here. We're going to draw a land this turn because we chewed one up. But that's just the way Magic the Gathering works. See? Told you. So we could remove their graveyard if we want to stop things like Murktide, which I'm kind of scared of. Let's play an Aether Vial first. And then play the Trawler so we don't have to worry about our opponent getting a Murktide soon. A Daze. We don't care about that. This does mean our opponent gets to reset their Surveil land. Right, this will shrink Nethergoy, so it'll stop Murktide Regents from coming in. They're probably going to flash this Borrower in. We should be able to race this. Our opponent's on a relatively low life total. And we've got some haste damage coming in. We've got 4 damage on board. This can only block flyers, so it's just going to be ships in the night. Just trading blows until one of us is dead. And we've got 19 life. And the scariest thing our opponent could do is a Murktide, but they can't do that. The second scariest thing our opponent could do is a Frog. They only have 1 card in hand, so if they play a Frog now, it won't be that scary. Alright. I would rather get this down than the Munitions Expert here. Just want to put the pain to our opponent while we can. Oh, that is a pretty solid selection of cards right there. Alright. We have our opponent dead in 2 turns anyway, but we can also have them dead without even needing combat. Alright. That went pretty good. How do we make it go better for the next games? It's probably some amount of Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast. That sort of stuff feels pretty good to me. Chalice of the Void. I don't think we want that when we're bringing in Pyroblasts. We don't really need to Earwig Squad them here. They haven't shown us the Graveyard hate stuff. Sudden Edict does kill the Frog. Pyrokinesis doesn't always kill Frog, which is a little sketchy for us. We already have the Warren Wailing, which is pretty good though. Cratermaker. 2 damage to destroy a creature. Not convinced there's many creatures that we're going to be able to hit with that. Like, we can kill a Borrower, but if they've got like Nethergoyf, that's not going to work. It can hit a Bowmaster, but once the Bowmaster's in, we don't really care that much. So Cratermaker getting upgraded into a Pyroblast sounds a good start. Sting Scourger is fine, but is fine good enough. Matron, Pashalik Mons, yeah, I like these things. Am I getting rid of Pyrokinesis? We're just upgrading it to better removal that actually kills the thing we want. Like, we had to leverage a lot to get the Pyrokinesis to kill the thing we wanted it to. Munitions Expert is kind of awkward, but it is at least a guy. I think I'm going to do like this and keep a Sting Scourger. Like, if they go all in on a Frog, we can bounce it. We could play something like a Blood Moon, and that could maybe mess with our opponent's stuff. But I think we're just better off having these things, and I don't want to change our core up too much. We basically just boarded in 4 answers for Psychic Frog, which I think is the scariest thing in this matchup. Okay. We have an answer to Psychic Frog. We have an Aether Vial, which is like a must counter for our opponent. Tamiyo. That's another thing I do not want to see sticking around, which is a pain. I think it's Wasteland, play Aether Vial. We can blast the backside of this if it flips, so we don't have to immediately fire off the Hydroblast. Okay, so I didn't have a Daze, or I didn't feel like a Daze was worth spending on an Aether Vial. We can't have our red source if we want to go get a black red source. We can't have that Wastelanded here. Right, Ponder. Another cantrip and this flips, but we do have the Pyroblast. They might just be, okay, we don't care about whatever you're doing. We're just going to protect our Tamiyo. There's a lot of Protect the Queen style stuff going on in Legacy right now, whether it's like a flip Tamiyo or just Psychic Frog. That sort of jam. Just play the thing, ride it to victory. Certainly come a long way since the Nimble Mongoose days of doing that. Right, they're not flipping the Tamiyo. That's a-okay with me. Let's put a counter on our Aether Vial. A Raucous Theater. I would like to cast a Pyroblast, potentially in this turn cycle. Which I think means we're playing this Wooded Foothills and passing. Our opponent's going to get another turn of accruing card advantage, but we can't just burn a Pyroblast on a Tamiyo. If it flips, then that's fine. Wasteland of our opponent's very own. They don't have 4 mana for the double Clue Crack, if that's what they want to try and do. They'd have to have a cantrip like a Ponder or something. Alright, so there's a Clue over there. We only have 1 Raucous Theater, so probably not doing anything this turn cycle, which is not a great feeling. A Goblin Warchief. I think this turn we can afford this Raucous Theater though. I think playing this game super slowly is the ideal for us. What I like, we've got a pretty good hand full of stuff here. I think we can put this into the graveyard. Right, we've got another land, potentially 2 more lands. Let's just see what transpires here. Right, they're just cracking a Clue. So this current pattern is not great for us, because our opponent is advancing by drawing extra cards every turn. We're just advancing by mana with the Aether Vial, which might be fine, might not be. We will see. If our opponent cracks a Clue and flips a Tamiyo, we can attempt to Pyroblast it, or we can attempt to answer it with something like a Broadside Bombardiers. Not really looking forward to our opponent having... Right, they want to hit our Raucous Theater. That's fine. Not looking forward to our opponent having something like a Brazen Borrower, but such is life sometimes. So they're going to crack in with the Tamiyo. Would you like to flip this? The clock it provides is a pretty real one. Right, they did not want to do that. Muxus. That's a cool one. Okay, another Wasteland here. I do want to keep holding up this Pyroblast though. So I think we're just going to continue letting our opponent drawing all the cards. This feels horrible. But we're going to try and win on the damage metric here. They didn't crack a Clue at end step. So I mean they're going for the double crack this turn. So we might have to Pyroblast to save our Aether Vial from a Brazen Borrower. So I don't just want to fire off this Pyroblast. We obviously can't fire off the Pyroblast while our opponent has mana, because then they can just get us with a Brazen Borrower and take our Vial out. Harbinger of the Seas. Not running Stifle, are you? It's weird they didn't crack this before playing their guy. Alright. We get a snow-covered mountain here. Don't think this Harbinger of the Seas matters as long as we have this Aether Vial. God, this Tamiyo is annoying though. All this extra cards just saved up, ready to ruin our day. Let's put in this Warchief. Is this something you want to kill? It is. Okay. Good. Because I would much rather have my Broadside Bombardiers in play than that. Would I like to have Broadside Bombardiers in play or the Sling-Gang Lieutenant? Let's put the Bombardiers in. Draw off turn. A Ringleader. Not a bad one to have. We can play an island here. We go shields down on a Pyroblast, and we haven't played into any counter magic yet. We swing. I don't know what difference playing this is actually going to make for us. I think we're just best off holding up this Hydroblast. We're in a pretty good position in terms of what we've got on board and what we've got in hand. Our opponent has a lot of potential with these clues. A blue-blue spell. The Murktide. That is obviously something I want to Pyroblast. Sure. Is it worth Pyroblasting this on the stack, or do we want to Pyroblast it in play? I don't think it makes much of a difference. Actually, that's not true, because they can... If this goes into the graveyard, it turns on Fatal Push. That was just an error there. Let's put it on the stack. Sure, our opponent's finally dealing some damage to us. We get Fatal Push now? No, we didn't. Okay, that's good. Do I want to put a charge counter on this right now? Or do I want to just work my way up to Muxus being uncounterable? I think I quite like an uncountable Muxus here. Right, we'll put in this Ringleader. Give ourselves some more options. Our opponent has Consigned to Memory potentially available. Oh, look at all those hits. Just keep coming. We don't get to cast that many spells a turn here. So if we want to play around days, we're probably playing a 3-drop here. If we really care about dealing with this, we can deal with it. I want to play this Lackey out. If we just play a Lackey, that's not the most exciting, is it? Put our Matron, though. This is certainly worthy of interaction from our opponent. Right, we're just in, aren't we? Well, now we have to decide what we want, and that's not the easiest thing. So there's 5 counters on our thing. So we're just going to be getting Muxus next turn anyway. Do I just want some removal? Do I want to pump our guys? That was a tough one. Quite like a Skirk Prospector here, actually. Maybe that's a wild take there. Also, do we get to go to attacks, or are they going to kill our Bombardiers first? No, we get to go to attacks. Alright, beginning of combat. 1 and a black. This could be like a go for the throat, or it could be a Shoulder's Edict. Murderous Cut. Sure. Still get to attack for 2. I think we are the beatdown in the world here. But big old Muxus is threatening next turn. Is this the turn they mess with our Aether Vial? Could be. Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog is good. It's not... Oh no, I was going to say it's not good as Muxus, but the needle is really strong there. Okay. Well, that's going to cause us some amount of problems. Just a Tamiyo coming in. If I won't flip this, they might have won the game by now as well. Because when you draw half your deck, that is winning the game. Brainstorm. So now they're deciding to flip Tamiyo. Okay, so that's going to shrink our guys on attacks. 2 cards in hand. We'll put a counter on this in case we can get rid of it. So if we play out this Bombardiers and it resolves and we attack with it, we get to do good stuff. They had a Force of Will pitching days. Right, that cuts us off at the knees a little bit, doesn't it? So they have no cards in hand. But this is a 1-2 and this is a 0-1 on attacks. So I guess we're just holding. We're probably going to play this land. And that's it. The fact we don't have a second red mana is genuinely quite annoying here. I don't think the Harbinger of Ties is particularly good against us, but it's doing some work right now. Right, so now they get to cash in all of these clues they've had saved up. Another Tamiyo, sure. They're working towards the ultimate of the Tamiyo. Are you going to jump that, Frog? Are you going to let me block it? And let me block it. They have 1 clue. So if they crack that clue, they end up with a 2-3. So this will trade off and kill the Frog. Very weird attack there. It's giving us a free Psychic Frog. Cavern of Souls. Not the most useful one here, is it? As we play this, how do we get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we can just play a Muxus, right? That's likely to be good. So cast this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll sacrifice this Matron. We'll sacrifice this Ringleader. Get a Muxus in play. Let's have a look. That's pretty darn good. So we can... What do we want to sacrifice here? We have plenty of options. Right, we're going to go to attacks. This comes at the Tamiyo. Then we will kill this Harbinger using this Aether Vial. The only 6-drop in our deck is gone. The Aether Vial's not doing anything at this point. So we get to nug the Tamiyo for 1 here. You crack that clue. Surprised I didn't crack the clue in response to any of the things we were doing, but I think we go and get ourselves probably just a mountain. Actually, we've already got the Skirk Prospector here. Let's just go and get this Badlands and play out a Lackey. Could we have won that turn? We attack our opponent for 1, so be on 11. We throw the Muxus, that's 8, and then we sack everything else. Yeah, we could have just won the game there. That was not necessary for us to continue playing this game. I guess we didn't know what their clue token would find them. But, alright, we managed to get the match there. We made a slight little misstep at the end towards there, but yeah, our deck rolls pretty hard in the fair matchups. Let's go to round 2. A bit of a slow hand, but we have the ability to go get a Raucous Theater on 1, which is reasonable. It's half a ponder. And then we have Uncountable Hordemaster into Uncountable Warchief into Uncountable Ringleader. Obviously that collapses if we have a Wasteland pointed at us. But it's a thing that we have potential access to with our hand. And then maybe Uncountable Muxus after that. I would say the amount of games I've lost after resolving a Muxus are a very, very small percentage of games. Our deck isn't as big as explosive as the old Turbo Muxus decks before that got banned, but we still do plenty with it. Alright, let's go to the Raucous Theater. Cratermaker. So if we get taken off land, this is just like another card that we can do some stuff with. I think that's fine. Our opponent said yikes there. So I think I'm going to play out the... I think it is the Hordemaster. If it dies, we get to potentially draw a card. This makes a hasty Warchief seem a lot more tempting. Brainstorm from our opponents. It'd be quite funny if our opponent is the combo deck actually and just combos us out after being worried that we could turn to them. I would enjoy that in a weird, masochistic fashion, I suppose. Our opponent's got a Misty, so we could be looking at some kind of Omni-Tail deck. Another basic island. So I think our opponent's either doing something unfair or they're doing something very fair with like control-y type stuff. I think there's very little wriggle room between the two. Alright, let's have an uncountable Warchief to keep his trainer rolling. 4 damage, that's respectable. There's a lot of cantrips happening here. I am getting a little worried that our opponent is the combo deck. It could be like High Tide, because they run fetch lands so they can go and get Mystic Sanctuary. And I wonder if they run Surveil lands in High Tide now. Probably do. Tanglepool Bridge. Oh, we're onto something weird. So this is an indestructible artifact land. Don't know what's going on. Whatever it is, it's probably something unfair. So we'll see what we draw, but the main choice we have to decide now is... Alright, another Cavern of Souls is fine as well. I was going to say, we could jam the Ringleader. I don't hate that. Maybe we find another threat. Let's do some Ringleadering. Let's place Cavern of Souls on Goblin. Let's make a hasty Goblin Lackey. This turn is going to be gross. And that's what I'm here for. Alright, I don't know what our opponent's playing. We know there's islands. We know there's Tanglepool Bridge. I have no idea what's going on. I think we want some Red Blasts. I think that much is a given. Other than that, I don't really know. Like, is Tanglepool Bridge... They're going to have some sort of artifact synergy, right? If you're playing Tanglepool Bridge. Why else would you play that? So I think that makes you want the Trash Master. They didn't show us any creatures. Maybe you want an Earwig Squad? I don't know, I'm kind of worried about whatever's going on there. Is this a Warren Weirding matchup? Maybe. I don't think this is a Munitions Expert matchup, so we can get rid of those. Cratermaker maybe is useful? I don't know. Pyrokinesis is probably the thing that goes there. This is the information we have. Like, we don't know if they're a combo deck where Mindbreak Trap's going to be good. Tanglepool Bridge isn't an island, so our opponent's not going to be running any sort of High Tide style list. Why have they got a Tanglepool Bridge? Are they bargaining something? I don't know. Alright, we've got this Earwig Squad in so we can at least have a little peek. And we're going to keep the Warren Weirding in and the Sting Scourger in case our opponent's doing any sort of show and tell style stuff. We can at least kill some guys that way and we can tutor for either of these. Alright. I have no idea what our opponent's doing. Alright, our opponent's on the play. What are they going to start with? Island and a Ponder. It's a Preordain. Yeah, our opponent's definitely up to no good. Preordain is usually a signal that they want extra cantrips because their deck requires A+B to do something. Maybe they're like a weird Omni-Tail list. Just has a Tangle thing in it. Now, let it be known, we kept a 1-lander here with an Aether Vial. But we have 2 drops, so if we draw another land, we get to start playing cards. Alright, Force of Will, pitching Force of Will. Still no more information about our opponent. We do need to find a second land here. We have quite a decent chunk of lands. We can find another Aether Vial is fine, but might be too slow for what we're up against. They show and tell us we put in the Muxus, and our opponent might have a bad day from that. Sling-Gang Lieutenant. We have missed our land, so we are probably not having a good time. 1 lander on the draw with 2 2-drops and an Aether Vial. I think that's pretty keepable. We might just lose the game because of it, but I think I would still take this again. We're also insulated from show and tell somewhat by being able to put our own thing that might be able to challenge whatever our opponent's doing. Alright, Lackey. It's all up to you. Oh, we're in. Now, this might not matter. It might not connect. Plenty of things can go wrong for us. Another island. Terrain Forest. Also an island. The Prismatic Vista is very confusing to me. What's going on? Because I understand these, if you're playing just islands, you can then go and fetch. But they have shown us green. Maybe they just have, like, Veil of Summer, and that's not what this matchup's about. Can I connect? I would like to connect. Oh, are we doing it? Oh, we're doing it. Kapow. That's a lot of stuff in play right there. What do I want to do about this stuff in play? I'm going to cast a Hordemaster. So if we lose stuff, we're at least going to get a bunch of cards. If we sack a bunch of stuff to play a Sling-Gang Lieutenant, does that actually do anything for us here? Actually, no, we don't have any black mana anyway. Okay, so we have the win next turn. It's up to our opponent to do something here. They could be Omnitail. Maybe they're just running a single one of the artifact lands, so they have a non-wastelandable source of Veil of Summer, but then it comes in tapped. They can't fetch it. I don't know. I'm really confused. A brainstorm. I hope we get to see what our opponent's doing. I don't even mind if I lose this game. I'm just intrigued now. Like, we have a pretty good board. City of Traitors. Okay, I'm getting show and tell vibes. Show and tell. I will put in this Sling-Gang Lieutenant. Our opponent has an Omniscience. A Cunning Wish over the top. So this is going to be lethal. They can go and get Firemind's Foresight. They can go and shoot up a bunch of stuff. Invert Invent. Search a library of an instant card, a sorcery card, reveal, and put in your hand. Okay. So this is just different to Firemind's Foresight, but similar. So Drawn from Dreams. And let's have a look at this card. Drawn from Dreams. That's the look at the top 7. So yeah, it's Dig Through Time, but for 4 mana. And they've got Cunning Wish, so they're Cunning Wishing again. For a Sublime Epiphany. They should be able to find an Emrakul here and cast it, but we don't die to a single Emrakul hit. And when our guys die, we get to look at a lot of cards. So we could find like a Sting Scourge or something. Right, they've bounced the Sling-Gang Lieutenant and counterspelled it and done some other bits and pieces. And now they're going to draw from Dreams over there. We can beat an Emrakul. We can't beat Emrakul into Emrakul. I'm surprised they didn't have just a line with Cunning Wish that was just straight up lethal. But we'll see how this turn progresses. We're going to let our opponent have their fun. Brainstorm. Drawn from Dreams. Cunning Wish. What are they going for? Eladamri's Call. So this tutors for a creature. So they're going to put an Emrakul into their hand. But we don't lose to a single Emrakul trigger. Here's Emrakul the Eon's Torn. Yep, you get an extra turn. We still have lethal on the crackback afterwards, I believe. I haven't done the exact maths, but Muxus is quite the Magic the Gathering card. Right, so we're going to get annihilated and we're going to go to 5. So we've got to lose 6 permanents here. So 1, 2, I think it's probably both these guys. And then 2 more. We're definitely keeping our Prospector. This guy hits really hard. I do like having double Lackey to just put in these Sling-Gang Lieutenants and finish our opponent off. Maybe we don't need the Prospector. This kills Emrakul, right? That's pretty funny. Maybe we have to do something like this. So we're going to get a bunch of triggers. Now we only get to cast Goblin cards, so this doesn't really matter that much. We'll use F6 for the rest of this turn. So we're looking at... We're just missing on a whole bunch of things. Just a bunch of lands, just clearing off the top. The Red Blast. We got Sting Scourger. That answers the Emrakul. Not very well, though, because they just replay it. Pashalik Mons. Another Bombardiers. Now, our opponent might have a way to replay an Emrakul. Like play another one, or whatever. Dress Down. Interesting timing. That's going to be gone in our turn. Drawn from Dreams. Keep on digging. Surprised they didn't have like a way that just automatically wins them the game. So you see things like Firemind's Foresight for a bunch of stuff, and then you put the Emrakul on top and release the Ants and just win that way. But how often does that actually come up when Emrakul isn't good enough? I don't know. Ah, they've got another Emrakul. That will do. Okay. So we know what our opponent's doing now. Do I think Mindbreak Trap has any use here? If our opponent is like popping off with a bunch of stuff, we can maybe stop one of their pieces. I don't hate that. I don't like it very much, but it is what it is. Pashalik Mons, maybe this isn't where I need to be. This does double up with the Sling-Gang Lieutenant to do a lot of damage, but I don't think that's what we're about. We don't need the Trash Master. Maybe we'll get a couple of Mind Breaks in, now that we've seen what our opponent's up to. And the Mind Break Traps might not do anything, but our opponent's deck is pretty good against what we're bringing. This is a very, very all-in on Aether Vial hand. I don't think we can keep this. Alright, this one is better. What are we getting rid of here? Clocks quickly. Tutors for something that is really, really busted. the lands to play the really busted things, potentially. I think we get rid of a land. We're more likely to draw a land than anything else here. And we're hoping to just ride the Goblin Lackey all the way to the bank here. We only have the one Muxus, but we can tutor for it and put it in on turn 3. But that might be too slow. Our opponent might be able to go off on turn 1 with something like a Soul Land and Lotus Petal. But we seem to have dodged that. We can at least Mindbreak Trap if that is a thing that happens. So next turn we Goblin Lackey, put in the Matron, go and get Muxus. And try and threaten something really potent there. Warren Weirding. Quite like that one. Attack. Put the Matron, go and get the Muxus. So we're going to get the Raucous Theater. I don't know if our opponent's running any like back to basics or the blue Magus of the Moon. It's certainly possible they run blue Magus of the Moon because you see the red Magus of the Moon out of show and tell decks. Like sneak and show decks. So it's not entirely unexpected here. Preordain. Sure. Our opponent is going to let us get a Muxus in. They put 2 on the bottom. Okay. Let's crack this. Go and get the Raucous Theater. Okay. We said we wanted another land. We found it. So we could play the Muxus. We could play the Bombardiers here to force through a little bit of damage. But I think holding up the Warren Weirding might end up being more impactful. Because we should just be able to win next turn anyway. I'm relying on this Muxus doing stuff, but have you read this card? Stuff is what this card does. Alright, that is a lot of stuff. Okay. We got 2 answers for Emrakul available right now. And we can kind of cut off the Omniscience line if things go well. We don't have a permanent that puts a trigger on the stack. Which is something that's quite nice. Alright. We've got a Cantrip. That's the first spell for our Mindbreak Trap. There is the Forest. Nothing else from our opponent. How are they planning on surviving this turn? A Dress Down. How many spells have they cast this turn? Enough that this doesn't work. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's not quite lethal here. Red Blast will be good. A Warchief. We're doing Warchief things. That takes us off of black for the Warren Weirding. We have our opponent dead next turn anyway. Guess we just attack with everything. Right, our opponent's found another turn. They've got a lot of cards in hand. It's certainly possible for them to work their way through this and win. Preordain. That's what we want to see to start the thing off. Build up the storm count for our Mindbreak Trap. And also means that they're going to have less mana to do things with here. It means they don't just have it all already. They put both of them on the bottom. And now they're going to crack this Misty Rainforest, which will then shuffle all of the cards they put on the bottom into the middle of the deck. Show and Tell. So we can't cast this for free. Is there a creature we can put in that does anything when we put it in? No. Do I want this Bombardiers or do I want this Warchief? I'm going to put the Warchief in. There is an Omniscience. We don't lose to Emrakul. The spell can't be countered, but it can be exiled. We can let our opponent take another turn. This is a sorcery, actually. We can't even hold this up, can we? We have to hit this with the Cratermaker. 2 mana Goblin, too good for Emrakul. So the reason I didn't Mindbreak Trap here is if our opponent just does Cunning Wish here. So if we hit this Cunning Wish, that might be enough to stop everything our opponent's doing. Force of Will. Alright, that's not going to be enough to stop everything our opponent's doing. Understood. Invent. Yeah, I think we messed this one up. We should have got in an extra... No, we wouldn't have got in the extra 2 damage because we couldn't get the haste right. Holding up Warren Weirding doesn't work because it's a sorcery. This is obviously awkward. Sublime Epiphany. So they're going to counterspell this. Or stifle it. And then they can bounce one of our permanents. So we have less stuff to sacrifice. We don't need the Muxus to be in play to win the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we get rid of these, we just need to draw a land to put in the Bombardiers. Opponent needs to just play another Emrakul. And they're looking at a lot of cards here. They get to look at 7, and then they get to get the cantrips from those 7. So looking at another 7, for example. And then they're just going to play an Emrakul, and we're going to lose. Alright, our opponent's looked at 21 cards with these Drawn from Dreams. Still not found it. Our opponent's definitely just going to slam the Emrakul as soon as they find it. At least 50% of their hand is probably going to be cantrips, given the nature of their deck. So we're just kind of sat here hoping for the fail rate of our opponent. If they shuffle, they'll shuffle all those cards they put on the bottom that weren't the right one. They did not shuffle. And there's the Emrakul. And there is me conceding. Yeah, it was a long one. I don't think we had a line that won that one. So we wouldn't have been able to get the 2 damage off of our pinging guy at any point anyway. Yeah, alright. I'm not expecting to beat combo matchups like that. If we'd have drawn some of our Red Blast, that might have helped, but our opponent did have a lot of counter magic available. Alright, let's go to round 3. Yeah, I'll keep this. We're going to be playing off of just red mana here. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 very quickly. They're doing something unfair, because we're not going to beat something unfair. That's not what Goblins is all about. Thoughtseize. So we're going to lose our Goblin Lackey here, I would have to imagine. There it goes. Draw a land, we can maybe think about wastelanding. Draw a land. Our opponent mulligan to 5, so let's just see if the wasteland's good here. It might not be, but it might be absolutely backbreaking for our opponent. And just give us a couple of time walks in terms of tempo. Oh, yeah, okay. Wasteland just wins us the game. Excellent. Thoughtseize. I think we're going to want some Red Blasts here. I think we're probably going to want some extractions. Probably Sudden Edict. Do I want these relics is another question. I guess we can play the relics over the surgicals, because I don't know if our opponent is going to be a graveyard deck. But they mulligan quite aggressively, and the blue-black reanimate version of that deck does mulligan a lot. They cast a Thoughtseize, which now they're running because they don't have Grief. So I feel relatively confident in thinking that they're a graveyard-based deck. I don't think we want the Pyrokinesis. The Munitions Expert is unlikely to get the job done here. I like the Sting Scourge still and the Warren Weirding. Pashalik Mons, probably not what I need. We like Muxus. Piledriver seems fine. War Marshal looks fine. Cratermaker looks a little bit suspect here, I think. Do we want Piledriver or was Mogg War Marshal? It's probably one of those two. But they are early plays, although we're kind of boarding these in as our early plays instead. Like, all this stuff is just like gas, and we don't really want to be removing those. We could remove a Wasteland. Not a big lover of that. Hordemaster, like our opponent's removal is going to be stuff that puts our creatures to the graveyard, so it's likely that our Hordemasters will actually be drawing us cards. I don't think it's Piledriver. Maybe it is, like, I don't know. No, let's go for this. I'm not sure when the Piledriver is looking great, because Frog is a blue creature, but we can't ever block it because it flies. Okay, we have a Red Blast, we have a Surveil Land, a couple of Wastelands, we got a removal spell, and then we gas up. I am thinking this hand looks very slow, but we have some tools that I am okay to leverage. That's an island, that is a Tamiyo. Is that a thing that we want to blow up? So we could get the Raucous Theater, or we could just Red Blast it straight away. I don't really want to do that, because the Frog is scarier. Also not big into playing around days either. I'd like to just get the Raucous Theater. Get some value going. I'm see a Brainstorm here and flipping this. I'm going to see a Ponder. That's fine for now. It's going to go Raucous Theater. Don't start for me. Alright, they did not. A Ringleader. We do want more action. I'm going to put this on top. Play this one out. And hold it as Red Blast. Our opponent does Tamiyo transforming shenanigans and we can blow it up. Otherwise, we just have to let them get cards. But we've seen how this matchup plays out if we just let our opponent get cards. Eventually, we end up just overwhelming them with Ringleaders and stuff. As long as they don't get the big super scary stuff into play, whether that be Murktides or what have you. You're getting a Wasteland, aren't I just let that mana empty. Wasteland of our own. At some point, we get to do a Ringleader uncounterably. And that should be fine. Right. Oh, we're blue-white. Okay, so we might be probably on that Esper tempo build, so I'm not expecting any reanimation stuff here. I guess they could be like the older builds that used to splash white for swords to be really good in the mirror. And Triumph as a non-graveyard threat. But you don't need Triumph when a Psychic Frog exists. Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, opponent. We're just going to lose by not doing anything here. A Batterskull. We're like full-on Stoneblade. So what's about to happen here is not pretty. So we're going to cast this Red Blast on this Tamiyo. Our opponent's going to crack this fetch hand and cast a Brainstorm. Oh, no. Okay. We're still gaming. We're still gaming over here. Warren Weirding. Get out of here, Stoneforge Mystic. Right, so we don't have to worry about Batterskull for a couple of turns. Next turn, we start getting uncounterable Ringleaders. It's going to be a little bit hard for us to wasteland our opponent out of this one. Muxus. Now that's a nice one, isn't it? Goblin. In comes a Ringleader. Get some value. I like a Lackey and a Matron. We have sideboarded wrong here, though. But I think we had to hedge on the thing that is scariest, based on what we'd seen. Alright, they've got some basics over there. Yeah, I don't think our Blood Moon's going to work when our opponent's got at least 4 basics in their deck. Cracking a clue. Cracking the clue now might mean that our opponent doesn't have consigned to memory. So you're probably likely to crack that in response to the trigger, if you have them. Just in case you want to hit the Ringleader trigger. Now you might not want to hit the Ringleader trigger anyway. But it's just a thing to think about. So now we're going to see the Batterskull. There it is. So we definitely have answers for this. We've got the... Oh, did we board out Cratermaker? We might have boarded out our answers thinking about it. We've still got Sting Scourger. So we could 1, 2, 3 mana for Matron and then 2 mana to Sting Scourger this. Okay, they just let us have it. Okay. Do we have anything better than the Sting Scourger though? Doesn't look like it. Alright, we get to continue the beats. Get out of here, Germ Token. Our opponent to 12. Next time we might be able to cast this Muxus, and if we hit a Haste Enabler, then we're just absolutely rolling there. A Tamiyo. Lands, put a Batterskull on it? No. Okay, they're just going to flip it straight away and try and shrink our board. That's understandable. This is a pretty good Pyroblast target. Our opponent's going to save their 3 mana to bounce the Batterskull, I would suspect. See if we find the land or not. I am not paying the Echo for this guy. Wooded Foothills. Right. Our opponent could have something like Back to Basics here. I think I'm just going to get this, and we're going to cast this uncounterably. Give me some haste. We got some haste. What would I want out of this board? Quite like the Sling-Gang Lieutenant. It feels pretty tasty. Let's get one of those. Let's go to attacks. Broadside Bombardiers going down. Not a surprise. So I think we attack our opponent. They can, if we attack the Tamiyo, they can't get back the plow. I think that's worth doing here. Now, obviously, we have an answer to the Tamiyo if we need it in the Pyroblast, but we don't want them doing the minus, getting a plow, killing our best thing, and all that jazz. Snapcaster getting the plow. Sure, that's similar but different. Now they can put the Batterskull onto the Snapcaster, but that gives us a nice Pyroblastable target. We unfortunately don't have a sack outlet here. There's the plow on the Muxus. We gain a bunch of life. That is our only Muxus as well. It's getting tough. Yep, so they're going to equip the Batterskull and just have like a 6/5 Snapcaster Mage to throw around. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's got Vigilance. They should be attacking here. We're not going to send our whole team under the bus. They would love that. Yep. 4 cards in our opponent's hand. Am I paying the Echo cost for this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't think we can. Hordemaster. Don't hate the Hordemaster. Let's destroy the Snapcaster. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana here. So we can play an uncounterable Hordemaster. That gives us some real juice for taking out this Tamiyo now. And go to attacks. Attack Tamiyo with everything. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. That's exactly enough to kill the Tamiyo. If our opponent has nothing here. A plow on our poor little Hordemaster. Okay, so now we only deal Tamiyo 1 damage. Sure. Take out our opponent's lands here while we can. Let's get Lackey. Might be difficult dealing the damage of the Lackey. But by restricting our opponent's mana like that, it's going to be much more difficult for them to get their Batterskull doing anything again. We need Lords. A little bit worried about Wrath of the Skies. But we're just kind of cooked if they've got it, and that's how things are. Because we need to keep putting stuff into play. We need to keep pressuring his Tamiyo. Right, not Wrath of the Skies. Good. Yep, you plus your annoying Tamiyo. You can have another Tamiyo. That's also annoying. What is the deal here? Would I like a hasty Ringleader, or would I like the Sling-Gang Lieutenant? We play the Ringleader, we get to poke at their Tamiyo for 2. And then they block 1. And that's whatever, isn't it? Right, I think we're going to get some more options for next turn, is the plan here. Prospector, I like that one. Attack Tamiyo. This back and forth is so annoying. So our opponent can equip the Batterskull to their Tamiyo next turn. Which is obviously a pain, because that's a flyer. That gets to play Sword and Shield. And we didn't really have any answers for it because we sideboarded wrong based on what our opponent's deck is. Oh, they've got another Snapcaster and another Plow. Yikes. Feels like the worm has turned and we're not winning this one. We had a few windows, but our opponent had like such a good selection of cards to mess with us. Yep, so now they can just trade the Snapcaster off with this Ringleader if they want. They can just block it with a Tamiyo. If they don't want to trade, yeah, that's fine. And now they're going to have the flying, life-linking Tamiyo. How are we coming back from that? Like, Sling-Gang Lieutenant can do a lot of work, but they're about to draw a million cards. Okay. Yeah, we've sideboarded horribly for this matchup as well. Now, we've been lucky in not drawing those sideboarded cards, but yikes. Now, our opponent pops Tamiyo next turn. Record Progenitus. Alright, I think I'm done here. Let's get all these bad cards out of our deck. So we boarded in some grey overhead we definitely don't want. So the Snow Extractions are particularly bad. We do not require those. I would very much like to have this Trash Master back in. The Cratermaker looks good here as well. Piledriver seems okay. My opponent is a lot more blue focused than I thought. That's probably better than a Relic here. And if we take out this Relic, we could fill a Pashalik Mons or a Munitions Expert. Just have some more stuff to get our opponent's things out of the way. I hate that. We don't like any more Munitions Experts than what we have. Is Munitions Expert better than Piledriver? Like, their removal is white. Okay, we'll have another Munitions Expert. It's a flash threat. It also gets to mess with our opponent. Sudden Edict. Do I need Sudden Edict? Just have more Munitions Experts. Do I need Warren Weirding in that case? Maybe this should be Pashalik Mons. And that gives us a way of pinging our opponent. Or we can like block, sack stuff, and not give them lifelink. Alright, we've got Lackey into Raucous Theater, into Pashalik Mons. That's something. In comes our little friend. And we pass the turn. There's the Marsh Flats. Yeah, cracking it off. Source to Plowshares on our Lackey. Or is it an ending? It's a pending, sure. So now is the Raucous Theater turn. Let's see what we're working with. It's a threat. It's going on top of our library. That's where the threats are going to go. We're not expecting days out of our opponent. They are just a full-on control deck. Do we want our opponent to expend their removal on Pashalik Mons rather than our Bombardiers? I think so. Bombardiers are also better once we have something else in play. Stoneforge Mystic. I'm going to go get Batterskull. I did get the Batterskull. See, this is why we boarded back in the Goblin Shooty friends. Alright, let's go and get a mountain. I think it's Pashalik Mons still. Get our opponent to try and soak removal with this. We can Broadside Bombardiers, throw the Pashalik Mons at a Batterskull. Let's crack this. I think we have to get a bad... Do we have to get a Badlands? We only have red spells in hand. I might come back to buy us later, but we'll see. Can we Bombardiers? Alright, Hydroblast. That's pretty good. And we get to attack with the Pashalik Mons because our opponent can't put in the Batterskull. Love to draw a Cavern of Souls about now. Undercity Sewers. A little bit of Surveil action. Getting rid of a Tundra. Right, so looking for action rather than spells. An Aether Vial. Is Aether Vial what I want here? What does Goblin Warchief do for us? It's a guy, we don't get to attack with it. What does Aether Vial do for us? We probably lose before the Aether Vial gets to do its thing. So we're just going to play the Warchief, I think. And then we pass. Our opponent puts in Batterskull and this game starts slipping away. Now we can certainly overwhelm a Batterskull because we can deal damage in some pretty grotesque numbers. We're going to plow our Pashalik Mons. We untap with land and we can kind of deal with this Batterskull. Ooh, okay. 4 here. Our opponent goes back up to 20. It feels like we're just going to get properly cleaned out by this deck. Okay. Let's have an uncountable Ringleader. We're not attacking with it because of the Batterskull, but we can at least draw some more cards. Trash Master is a pretty good one. That means our opponent has to respect the Trash Master in terms of the amount of mana they keep up. Wasteland, they can take out a Cavern of Souls, so we can't cast a Trash Master. Life Total becoming more and more of a resource here. Yep. Let's take that up. A Bombardiers. I want this Aether Vial in play, and I want this Hordemaster in play, I think. This way, at least, if we have to start putting stuff in front of the Phyrexian Germ token, it's going to be drawing us a card effectively off the Hordemaster. Now, it might not be a card we get to do anything with. I'd quite like some land, and we don't get those off of the Hordemaster. Apart from that one goblin that is a land. We've got Cauldron as well. Now, this is a problem. So this is 9 damage if we let this through. I think we have to block here. We at least get to trade with the Germ token if this dies in combat. Alright. We don't get to do that now. So this would deal 3 and then it would die to the Pashalik Mons. We get the Pashalik Mons trigger, we ping. But now we're just doing nothing here. Yeah, our opponent's basically playing this game on easy mode. They've just got a bunch of removal. They've got a big lifelinker early on against an aggro deck. Like we're just nothing here. Sling-Gang Lieutenant we don't get to do anything with. Broadside Bombardiers doesn't really help us out here. We can cast it. No, we're just dead. Let's not mess around. Yeah, we got absolutely crushed by the control deck. And like game 2, it felt like we were kind of getting there, but as soon as we fall behind this Stoneforge, that's it really. That little plan here is too much. Now we brought in things to try and mitigate this, and obviously we had some bad sideboarding because we assumed our opponent was something they weren't based on what is most popular and best in the meta, and we kind of got windmilled by like a bit of a fringe deck here, but it's playing good cards and stuff. It's not like it's some weird unplayable deck. It's just a perfectly serviceable deck, but we made a decision based on numbers and it didn't work out for us in game 2, and in this game was just a slaughtering. All right, that's 3 rounds in the book. I think we are 1 and 2. Lost to control, lost to combo. All right, let's go to the 4th round. All right, we're into round 4, and our hand here is pretty darn slow. I think we need to be doing something in the first couple of turns of the game, so let's mulligan this one. All right, Goblin Lackey, that's a thing. We don't have the most to do with it. I think we can use this Boggart Trawler to be a land or a spell here, which is very much exactly what the card does, so that's nice. I'm going to see Underground Sea here. Cameo. Sure. Let's make some goblins. Now, our Goblin Lackey can get blocked quite easily by the Tamiyo. However, that means our opponent is not attacking and getting a clue. So that's okay for us. What they could do here is flip the Tamiyo with a Brainstorm and then plus a Tamiyo so that our Goblin Lackey doesn't deal any damage. Alright, they're coming in. This means they're more likely to have something like a Brainstorm here, or just, a removal spell. There is the Fatal Push. We're playing out the Cratermaker here. It's not the most exciting thing, but if we try and play a Warren Weirding here, our opponent can Brainstorm and flip a Tamiyo, or they can just daze our Warren Weirding because we can't use Cavern of Souls to make it uncountable because it only makes creature spells uncountable, even though Warren Weirding is a goblin. Alright, so probably on the Reanimator style blue-black deck here. Right, in comes the Tamiyo. So we have an uncountable Bombardiers next turn if we want it. Or we could do an uncountable Trawler. If our opponent's reanimating this Troll, that's gonna... Yeah, that's something, isn't it? 12 life, though. A Piledriver. So if we play the Piledriver, attack the Bombardiers next turn, the Piledriver is going to be attacking for 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, throw this, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that will be lethal. I'm going to try this one out. I'm going to play this Boggart Trawler tapped. This means if we get wastelanded, we might still be able to do our little plan. Now our opponent's just going to be drawing some extra cards here. There's a lot of things they can have. They didn't crack a clue. Are they going for the double clue crack? That's pretty solid here. You can get a clue, bash us for 6, crack 2 clues, flip the Tamiyo, plus the Tamiyo, minus our creatures, and then we're only attacking for 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not the most, is it? No, it's still more than that, right? Because of the Piledriver. I don't know, we'll see what happens here. If we draw a land, we can activate our Cratermaker as well as our Bombardiers and just throw loads of damage at our opponent. They're going to flip using this Ponder. Okay. So next turn they can minus the Tamiyo and get back the Fatal Push, if that's the thing we're worried about. So got 6 damage, plus Cratermaker, 7, 8, plus Bombardiers, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have Exactsies, but if they take our Bombardiers here, we don't have Exactsies. They are going to 10 on this, so attack for 1, 2, 3 damage this turn. That is not good enough, is it? Okay. We're just attacking our opponent here. Sure, you can minus our poor little Tamiyo. Or with your poor little Tamiyo, I guess. Not big damages. We could try as Warren Weirding to get rid of this. That does play into a bunch of stuff our opponent has already shown us. Let's make this Munitions Expert now. So we could sacrifice our Cratermaker here to kill the Tamiyo. This Tamiyo is worth 3 damage to us. The Cratermaker is worth 5 damage, so I think we just leave it, right? It's 2 for the pump on the Piledriver, 2 for pinging, and 1 for its own toughness. Maybe we can see this Troll of Khazad-dûm held back on blocks. There's a Wasteland. That's pretty annoying. Troll of Khazad-dûm has to be held back on blocks, I think, here. And they got Fatal Push as well, have they? They're reanimating our Broadside Bombardiers. What's our opponent? 4. As soon as they attack with this, they get to fire off clue tokens. I think we have to kill this now. But we got 3 damage out of it instead of 2 if we were just going to go to the face with it. It's not the end of the world. So we can Warren Weirding, attack our opponent for 2 damage off of the Piledriver trigger. That's not really good enough. Troll's not coming in though. Haven't given our opponent many daze targets, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this one catch a daze. Right, they're cracking a clue, so they might not have anything now, or they might have a Force of Will and want a different card to go with it. Get the most information before they fire off. I don't know if they drew that for turn or not. I guess we're passing. Yep, Tamiyo continues to go upstairs. Still no attack to the Troll. They're just going to sit back, protect the Tamiyo until they can win the game with it. Not a bad approach. A Wasteland. So we could attempt a Ringleader right now. I think we are in the situation where that is what we are required to do. Is that true? So if we attack with the Piledriver next turn, then that's lethal. So our opponent will have to block that so our other creatures get through. And that'll be 1 damage off of our Ringleader. And our opponent's just drawing all these clues from the Tamiyo. Getting back a Fatal Push. Yep, it's pretty good. This means they don't have the -1 to our creatures, but they might just have another Tamiyo. Okay, they'll probably play a Tamiyo before the Brainstorm if they have another one. So maybe we can attack. Or we're just going to be kill our Prospector, Wasteland us. That's right. They're going after the Piledriver. Attack with your Troll. Coward. At least we haven't got the Tamiyo about to win the game hovering over our shoulders. We've got a bit more time. Oh, Cavern. Love to see it. Goblin, please. Makes this turn very simple to begin with. What do you got for me? Just 1 Goblin. Okay, not the hit I was hoping for. I guess we pass. Now the Tamiyo gets to start ticking up again. But we have Goblin Matron into Muxus as the next 2 turns. So that should be good enough to win the game if our opponent doesn't have much more. But they're going to get Undercity Sewers here. Going to do a little Surveil action. Tamiyo going up. They got 4 cards in hand as well as getting the selection off the Sewers. They put a card on top. That's not great news for us. I think what's in our opponent's hand that isn't just winning the game already. Is it more lands? Is it counter magic? Is it like reanimation spells and nothing they want to reanimate? But that's not true. There's stuff that we have. Right, Psychic Frog. That's very strong. Probably the strongest creature in the game right now. Certainly the strongest creature in this game. Coming in with your Troll now? No. Still the cowardice continues. Let's have an uncounterable Goblin Matron, please. And next turn we can do something wild. A Sling-Gang Lieutenant is very good here, actually. Let's do that. If our opponent has an Archon of Cruelty, I don't want to discard the Sling-Gang, so we're just going to leave it like this. So our opponent gets to hit us with a Psychic Frog this turn and draw yet another card. Maybe that gets them towards a Wasteland, although the reanimated decks have less Wastelands than the classic blue-black build, so they might not have more Wastelands to reach for. I've seen between 1 and 4 in them, but it's usually 2 to 3. Can you beat my Sling-Gang? Sling-Gang on its own is lethal. So even if they kill all of our creatures. Thoughtseize. Oh, come on. Why did you slow roll that for so long? Ugh. Our opponent is only on 1, though. I guess there was some thought about it, but they are just dead. They're just stone cold dead to it, so they didn't really have a choice. Okay, so what's good here? A Lord. A Lord is good. A Muxus is good. Pashalik Mons. That guy's pretty good, isn't it? That should be lethal. Because we have the Skirk Prospector, so we can ping off all of our guys. Yeah, we got there. God, that took a while. Okay, so we're looking at some amount of Reanimator type stuff. I would very much like some Pyroblasts in there. I think the Extractions are good. Edict is playable. I do not like the Pyrokinesis here. It just doesn't seem to do enough damage. Munitions Experts also don't seem as good. We'll get all these things. Pashalik Mons, it's fine. Piledriver, okay. Not convinced we need the Piledriver though. Let's take the Piledriver out and just submit this 61. Yes, we are a 61 card deck as well, because we've got tutors. It's not uncommon to see decks with a bunch of tutors to be playing one card extra. Whether or not that's right, I'll let you debate. Right, so we're not getting blown out by graveyard stuff. We can play on basics for a bit as well. This is fine. We can decide if we want to get the Surveil land. Our opponent might be playing the Harbinger of the Seas. I think I got that one right. I keep calling it Harbinger of the Tides. Right, so they went to get a snow-covered swamp. So this definitely feels like they're going to go for the Harbinger, which means we're going to want to use this to get a basic. And get our mountain. Play this on Goblin. Let's play a Hordemaster. If this dies, we at least draw a card off of it. An Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, that's pretty good. We do get to draw a card. It was a snow-covered mountain. Okay. We don't get to draw a card. Right. Damage has begun. So I think we win the fair game with the tools we have in our hand. So our plan is to try and do that fair game. So go and fetch like more stuff like Ringleaders and kind of go with that jam. Does our Surge Extraction work, or are we just cold? Oh no, we got it. There's no other Arc of Cruelties. Anything interesting here? Barragoyf. So there's one Toxic Deluge. Only a couple of Tamios in there. One Psychic Frog, one Psychic Frog. Okay. That Barragoyf is a bit of a jerk as well. Goblin Lackey. I think I want to get another mountain, just in case they are playing... Oh, we didn't even look to see if they're playing Harbinger of the Tides. Whoops. Alright, we're going to get another mountain here. So we can bash for 2, and that's okay. And we take that. The next turn we can Matron and throw that at whatever we need to. If they play a Psychic Frog without a land, then we can't kill it. But these Matrons are just free to throw at our opponent's stuff. Kind of wanted our opponent to play a land, really. Alright, they're not leaving the Orc armies back. See a little frog. A Thoughtseize. Our hand is pretty Thoughtseize redundant, and I'll take that 2 life. We also now have perfect information for what our opponent's working with. And they could have targeted themselves to get a Barragoyf in and then try and reanimate it. But yeah, we lose one of the Matrons. But that's a-okay. Oh wow. We really get to have our cake and eat it here. Goodbye, Underground Sea. I know what you have in your hand. You can't do anything here. Matron. What do I like the look of here? Sling-Gang Lieutenant feels like a pretty powerful one. Just a Ringleader, just keep drawing more cards. That seems worthwhile to me. Bash. Yeah, it's just Lava Axe our opponent here. We played a land for the turn. So I'm going to play the Lackey out, but that's fine. Next turn we just play the Ringleader. And move on. Alright, our opponent's had enough, and that is the match. So that's 4 rounds in the books. And I think we've beaten Blue-Black twice. And there's 2 different flavours, so that's pretty good showing for Goblins. So we are 2-2, and the ones we lost were 1-2, so they were pretty close against matchups that were horrible. Let's go to the final round and see if we can put the positive on the board. We have no starting red mana, so this is clearly one that's going to get chucked back into our deck. Same problem. We're on 5 already. Well, it's not a bad 5, is it? So we're going to keep some lands. Do I want the Munitions Expert? Because it's something we can actually play. I think so. So the plan is play the Lackey, remove the block with Munitions Expert, connect, put in Muxus, win game. Basic Forest into a Noble Hierarch. I'll play this so we can save this in case we want to surveil land later on. Here comes the Lackey. Let's hope our opponent just leaves 1 creature to block that has power 2 has toughness 2 or less. That's all I ask. Birds of Paradise. Allosaurus Shepherd. Well, we're still going to Munitions Expert taking out this Allosaurus Shepherd. Because this will mean that the Birds of Paradise has to chump block. What do you reckon, opponent? Oh wow, we're doing a thing. Oh, this is going to go very badly for your opponent. Just like the bad old days. Here it comes. Okay. It got us 1 creature. But we are quite far ahead on board now. They could just natural order for an Atraxa here, and that might be what we've got going on here. Yeah, it's very difficult to handle the Atraxa. Our opponent is clearly struggling a bit for mana. I think the fact that they kept their hand, missed a land drop, and the play they made last turn, makes me think they just have the natural order and can just go, okay, we can beat this. Right, so this is going to be for a mana dork. Quirion Ranger. That's a pretty good one. So they get to untap and redeploy the forest, so this just jumps them up in a big way. 3 mana, a Nadu. Sure. So on our turn, they can activate the Nadu once with the Quirion Ranger. And more times if they've got something else. None of this really matters. What are we attacking with? We attack with this, and it's big. That's okay. It's just a big guy. Would I quite like to draw some additional cards? I think so. I don't really want to lose the Hordemaster. Okay, so we might need these cards. Are you going to chump our 8/8? Are you going to let us draw a card? Are you going to let our Lackey connect and put a Lackey into play? They might do. Oh, I didn't even do the Nadu thing that turn. That's interesting. Lackey putting in Lackey, the classic. Right, so we have a Surveil land for next turn. We can hopefully find the last little bit we need to get over the finish line here. If our opponent just plays a Nomads, we lose the game though. Yep. So our opponent gets to put 8 things into play. We're not beating this. Alright. So how do we beat this? Pyrokinesis seems like the first time it might actually be good. The Pyroblasts are kind of interesting. They don't really work that well against Nadu because they're usually tutoring for Nadu, using Chord of Calling or Green Sun Zenith. And once it's in play, they can play around removal quite easily, and we just get clowned. So I think the Pyrokinesis, taking out the Mana Dorks, is actually the correct play here. Do I want to take an Earwig Squad into consideration? Because with an Earwig Squad, we can try and take out some of their Nadus, but that's not really good enough, is it? Just taking out some Nadus. Blood Moon is sometimes useful if we can combine it with the Pyrokinesis. That's something I'm okay with. Sting Scourger looks bad. Pashalik Mons looks great here. Munitions Expert looks great. The Vial is less useful. We definitely don't want to draw 2 of them. I want some Sudden Edicts just to clear the way for our team. Like, it's just going to be making them sack a 1/1 guy. I don't think that's what we need to do. It is split second, so maybe there's some use to that one. But what would we play instead of? Is it better than Warren Weirding? Probably not, because we can at least shoot for that one. Alright, this is what we're going for. Alright, I'm going to keep this. Yeah, so our opponent can just happily let us put Lackey stuff in, and it doesn't really matter, because they just get to ruin us with all sorts of things here. Because they can just assemble their combo, and we're dead. Once upon a time. Quirion Ranger. An oldie but a goodie. Elvish Herder. So they use this to target their Nadu. So this is a 1/1. That's the reason they played it here. Do I want to trade into this? I think that's acceptable. We just keep our creatures off, our opponent's creatures off the board is something. We've got another Lackey. And we've got an Aether Vial as well. Aether Vial not looking great yet, but it will look better as time goes by. That's what Aether Vial does. But if we can get some tasty flash stuff on the go, we're going to see the Quirion Ranger here. Our birds, okay. Not a bad time to draw Pyrokinesis. Even drawing a land here is fine. Did not draw a land. We did draw a Rundvelt Hordemaster there. Let me cast that first. Right, I think our opponent is just going to kill us here. I'm being perfectly honest. So if we put in this Matron, we can go and fetch something. I really want a land. Just want to guarantee this Bombardiers. Because if we can Bombardiers next turn, we can start clearing out some of these annoying permanents. And if we draw another land, then we get to wasteland our opponent. So this is like a Nadu. Have they got the little guy? Right, that's game over. Sure. We're just not beating that. So we got beaten by Nadu, which I think is... I would definitely keep my eye on it as a thing that's going to get banned. I think it's just too easy to win with that deck when I played it. Every time I played it, it just felt like playing easy mode. And I think it's quietly the thing that people need to watch after Psychic Frog goes. Alright. So, a 2-3, not an impressive record by any stretch of the imagination, but we had a lot of close games. Obviously, that last round was just getting bodied because they can put stuff in the way, they can manage their life total, and then, you know, they can let us hit them with a Lackey and put in a Muxus, and it's just fine for them. Alright, so how do I feel about this deck? I feel there's some odd choices. I think Pyrokinesis, This is presumably in there for like the Eldrazi and stuff like that, but it's so bad against the blue decks because they just flip their Tamiya out of play and it doesn't matter, or they have a Psychic Frog, which basically you can't kill with damage. It just seems like a weird one to spend 2 slots in the main on, when we could just have some more good goblins. Only having 1 Muxus is a little sad. I think this card is obviously really good, and it's what we want to be doing with a lot of our games. So maybe having more of those isn't the worst. We only have 3 Ringleaders as well, so we're quite low down on the curve, because we're doing this Broadside Bombardiers. But I do like the Bombardiers. It's a goblin that gives us board control. And this makes the Mogg War Marshal actually pretty decent, because we can just load, like, what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage in 3 lots off of this card, if we want to, which is really, really pretty sweet. The combination of like lords, so we've got 2 of these and we've got 2 of these. I don't know if that's the correct spread. I'm not like an old classic Goblins player. I think part of the problem with this deck is that we are on the fair side, and we haven't been beating the unfair matchups, right? We beat the blue-black matchups. We got crushed by the combo deck at the end. We got crushed by the show and tell. It was show and tell omniscience deck. They're just doing something that's unfair that we don't really get to interact with. And then we lost to the control deck that's just going to kill everything we do. But I think we have good game some of the time in that matchup. Like, I don't think it's as bad as some of the combo matchups. I think it is winnable because we just keep throwing stuff at our opponent and eventually it's going to work. Another Ringleader would certainly help that out, just giving us even more ways of reloading and overtaxing their removal. But the fact they have the Batterskull pivot is really annoying for us. Like, they can just remove all our stuff, but if they're also gaining 4 to 8 life in a turn cycle, that becomes a bit insurmountable for us, especially when we don't have like the big giant Muxus stuff that you'd have in Turbo Muxus. So, not convinced by this deck personally. It seems a bit fair. I think you could probably improve the list and tailor it more to what is good in the meta now. Whereas I think I got this list from a week or so ago, and things have changed a little bit in the last week. People are trying new stuff. There's been a slight downtick in the Eldrazi I've been seeing, which would explain why the Pyrokinesis feels worse, because we're not seeing the Eldrazi matchups where you want to be like blowing up their Glaring Flesh Raker and stuff. So that's that on that one. What I would say is when I've played Goblins before Turbo Muxus days, which was definitely the best Goblin deck, but the deck I played before that I really liked was the Food Chain Goblins. Now, obviously, I'm a lover of Food Chain. That's not a surprise to anyone who watched my channel. Played it a few times. It's one of the few decks I actually have in paper. But the Food Chain Goblins deck was really cool because you could just really go wild with it. And it also had the combo of the Conspicuous Snoop with the Kiki-Jiki, where you put the Kiki-Jiki on top and then you just make a load of Conspicuous Snoops and then you turn the top of your library into a Sling-Gang Lieutenant and just murder your opponent that way. And that just seems like a way better approach than sort of this fair one against a lot of what I'm seeing. Because, like, the combo is going to be real tough for us to beat. Now, Pyrokinesis is a thing that can help against that with all these mana dorks. And if we'd have drawn the Pyrokinesis, we might have been alright versus Nadu. It might have given us the edge we needed. But it felt like very much all or nothing on that card. Maybe we're supposed to mulligan more heavily for it, but our hand was fine. And we can pressure trades with like their 0/1s or whatever on our guys. But we just couldn't quite get where we needed to be. We did have an alternative route where we could have wastelanded their Savannah. But if they had another land, then that doesn't work. And they just still get to kill us anyway. And maybe that slows our opponent down a bit, but it slows us down for sure. And so we just had to hope they didn't have it, and they did. Aether Vial doesn't feel amazing anymore in Legacy. I think its time may have come and gone, and we could just play more things. But what else are we doing on 1? We've got Lackey. I don't know if there's another Goblin that's worth playing on 1, so I guess the Aether Vial makes sense just to make sure we have a decent chance. We could play some more Skirk Prospectors. That doesn't feel amazing. I don't know, I have to have a think about that one. If you've got any ideas, let me know. That's why I like the Food Chain build as well, because with Food Chain, you don't play the Vials, but you play the Ignoble Hierarch, who's a Goblin. So you get 8 really good 1-drops that then can ramp you into your good 3-drops, or can just make you play Food Chain and automatically win the game. So I think I do prefer that route to where we are here. But I know there are some die-hard Goblins players who've been playing this and doing alright with it. But I don't think this is the exact list I would do. But the thing with Goblins that's really good is there's so many different configurations. You know, how many of these are you running? How many of these are you running? How many of these are you running? How many of these? You know, there's so many different ways that you can tweak it. And you can tweak it to your own personal thing as well as the meta. And get your games in and then end up finding yourself in a in a good spot. We only have 2 Rishadan Ports here. Some builds have 4. Some builds have none. You know, there's a lot of options available to tweak in this deck, which I think was why people like it. And obviously, who doesn't love goblins, right? Such a cool creature type. I haven't really got much else to say about this one. If you've got any thoughts on where you think the correct goblins deck lies, or any tweaks that you think should be made to this deck, by all means, just put them in the comments. I'm always interested to see what people feel about this deck. It's not one I have the ability to play on paper, but I do enjoy it. And what I will say is, whenever you go to a Magic tournament, if your opponent is playing like Black Red Goblins, they're going to be one of the nicest players you ever play against. All the Goblin players are just absolute great people. And that's something that I appreciate. Alright, thank you so much for watching this one. We are done for today. So please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.